new Beetle. This is the new DC movie, which has had a headache of a release. Let's be honest. This movie was kind of screwed, and maybe even more so than the Flash. Though not really. So originally this movie was gonna go to streaming. It was a pretty expensive streaming movie. The new CEO of Warner Brothers came in and said that's a bad idea. Which, to be fair, in this case, this is the one time I agree with the new CEO of Warner Brothers. It was a bad idea to release this movie. You gotta understand, this is almost $100 million costing movie that they were just gonna dump on streaming, and it is good enough to release in a theater. Though one of my gripes with this movie is it is noticeable in areas where it's not a full-on theatrical release, but we'll get into that. But then that got moved. Now there's an actor strike. Actors can't promote this movie. Warner Brothers hasn't been promoting this movie. Part of that is there is so much money in debt that I don't think they can't afford to promote many movies very well. Also, they're really bad at marketing movies. To be honest, let's be real. Warner Brothers hasn't had a lot of hit movies other than Barbie and the Batman and stuff like that, because they just are so bad at marketing their movies and they don't have money to. So there's that. And then, so now we have the movie here. And there's also been the other thing I want to mention is there's been this announcement of DC rebooting and how that's going to play into things and all this stuff. That remains to be seen. I do think that this movie will continue off of the new, into the new DC universe for a reason I'll talk about in spoilers. But I'll do spoilers towards the end. I did really enjoy this movie, though. I thought this was a fun time in the movies. It's not great. It's not groundbreaking. It's generic. But it's a fun kind of generic. And I think it does add its own flavor to things, but not enough to wow. I was like, wow, this really stands out. But for me to go, yeah, it was its own thing, but it also wasn't groundbreaking. It was just kind of fun. For example, so the family aspect of this movie, we've seen that in other DC movies like Shazam and stuff. It is unique in this movie with this Latino family that is actually really well captured. I could see a lot of Latinos and Mexicans watching this movie and really getting into that aspect of the movie. It's really well done. The family aspect is really well put together. It's representing a culture really well, and there's a lot of in jokes that I probably didn't understand just because I'm a white kid, as you can see. So I'm just saying it was. But I got it. But I really enjoyed that aspect of the movie, and and it made the movie more enjoyable. There was a lot of great jokes with the family, especially George Lopez's character, who was not what I expected him to be. I thought he was going to be the villain, but he wasn't. He was actually the uncle in the movie, and he added a great dynamic, had a lot of the best jokes in the movie. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a George Lopez fan. Like, I've never really watched anything with him that I've been like, wow, George Lopez. He's always just kind of been there, and seeing him in this movie definitely was great. He did a great job. And, I thought it was a fun movie. And the kid who plays Miguel in Cobra Kai, I'm forgetting how to pronounce the actor's name. I suck with Spanish. I think his name's Spanish. Like, I don't know how to pronounce any of that. Something Maletonia, something like that. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Anyway, I thought he was really good in the movie. I thought he actually really suited the character. I thought the suit design was really great. I think there's a couple things that bothered me about this movie. This movie definitely felt like a streaming movie where in the first half there's almost no action sequences. There's the one sequence where he gets the suit, he flies around, and he's like freaking out, like, I got this suit, what am I going to do? And then from there, it's about another maybe 30, 45 minutes, I forget how long, before there's another action sequence. And I feel like there needed to be more action sequences of him getting used to the suit, just because it felt like that started to get rushed over. I also thought, while this movie is trying to be a fun superhero movie, I felt like they wanted to really hammer in this idea of like, oh, he doesn't kill people. And I like that. I think that's great. especially since, let's be real, a lot of kids watch these movies. So having a hero that's like, nah, killing's bad, right? I understand that, but I also felt like some of the things they did with the villain towards the end of the movie, it was just like, this is a little like, not not like annoying, but just like, I didn't feel like the movie really needed it. But it's more of just a nitpick. And again, this movie did feel like a streaming movie, and that part of that has to do with some of the effects not being as strong, especially towards the end. And again, how much of the fact that we didn't see a lot of them in the suit. But yeah, I still thought this movie was a good time. I thought everybody did a great job. It's nothing that's gonna blow your mind. It's definitely my favorite out of the three DC movies this year. But that's just because Shazam was okay. The Flash was kind of bad in some aspects, but I still think I enjoyed it more than I enjoyed the new Ant-Man movie, right? So I know that's not saying a lot, but still, I don't know. All right, spoiler time. Click off if you don't want spoilers. I like that they actually explored that there's multiple Blue Beetles, and this is how I think it's going to connect to DC Universe, right? Is there's a Booster Gold TV show coming out, and Booster Gold and Blue Beetle team up all the time in the comics. But I don't think it's usually classic Blue Beetle and not this newer Blue Beetle like Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle. And I think that's what they're going to do in this new DC universe is we're going to get classic Blue Beetle teaming up with Booster Gold. That's a perfect idea. I think that's smart, and I think that's why James Gunn announced that and also I wouldn't be surprised if James Gunn is the one who put in that cliffhanger ending. I don't know if he did, but I think that's smart, and I really enjoyed that, and I'm excited to see where that goes. Other than that, there's not too much spoilers with this movie. It's a pretty simple movie. Good time in the movies. I think it's worth seeing. I don't know. This is one I could go either way, whether you see it in theaters or on streaming. I think if you really really love DC, you should absolutely go and support this in theaters. If you're Latino, I think you should support movies like this because it's representing your culture. Not that you're obligated to, I guess, but I think it is This is the first ever superhero movie directed by someone who's Latino, starring someone who's Latino, and written by someone who's Latino, and that's just really awesome to see, right? So if we want more of this, we gotta show the studios. But also, I think we could demand a little bit better. Not that this movie was bad, but there's still some aspects of this movie that just, I don't know. You could go either way seeing it in theaters. I think there's not a lot out in theaters, so I think a decent number of people probably will go try and catch this one. But I also think it's just kind of gonna do whatever because school's coming back and movies are gonna be slowing down. I know I work in a movie theater. I can tell you that. I went to the first showing at 2:00 they had today. It was not very filled, but then again, it's a Thursday, so who knows? But yeah.